Well, first of all, thank you for joining us this afternoon. This is a 21-year anniversary of the abduction of Morgan Nick. And this is an annual occasion in which those in law enforcement that have been so instrumental in fighting the battle against child abduction, to the Morgan Nick Foundation led by Colleen Nick, along with our legislative colleagues here. This is a day of reflection on what happened, but it's also a reflection on the progress that has been made since that fateful day in 1995. And I want to applaud the Morgan Nick Foundation. I want to applaud their leadership in educating parents and children about the dangers of child abduction, but also some very concrete things that have been accomplished since that day. And I do want to recognize the Attorney General. Would you mind joining us up here, General, who has been very helpful in this effort as well and led the effort. John Kennedy, 35th President of the United States, once said that children are the living messages we send to a time we will not see. It's just an extraordinary statement about the importance of children. Nelson Mandela, former president of South Africa, also said, quote, "Safety and security don't just happen. They are the result of collective consensus and public investment. We owe our children, the most vulnerable citizens in our society, a life free of violence and fear," end quote. That is well said, and that really reflects the mission that we have today in protecting our children. As I mentioned, this is the 21-year anniversary of the date of Morgan Nick's abduction, but it is also the start of a movement to help all children in Arkansas who have been victims of abduction or share that fear. And progress in Arkansas has been made since that time. The Morgan Nick Amber Alert and CART teams in Arkansas are just two examples of the progress that's been made. The Morgan Nick Amber Alert gives people the ability to get out information and pictures following the initial reports of an abduction. But very significantly, and listen to this about the CART teams, which are child abduction response teams. They're composed of people who are immediately available to respond to the scene of an endangered, missing, or abducted child. Think how critical the early hours are in any abduction or any missing child. It's those critical moments that you need to have a response capability of trained professionals that are ready to go. And I am delighted, Colonel Bryant, that each state police troop has a CART team, totaling 12 active teams in Arkansas. When the Criminal Justice Institute gets the 12 teams certified, then Arkansas will be the first state in the nation to have statewide certified CART teams. That is a success story. It's a result of law enforcement and the foundation working together to get something positive done about a very tragic circumstance 21 years ago. And so that is good for all the children of our state. The Morgan Nick Foundation has served millions of children and families in crisis statewide. The foundation is making a difference. Now, I mentioned two success stories, and one of them is the Amber Alert, and the second one is the CART teams. But all of those are responses to a tragic occasion. How about the preventive side? We have to focus on that as well. And that's why the foundation has engaged in educating children and parents about the danger of abduction and what steps can be taken to prevent an abduction, to alert them to the fear, to the possibility, and the steps to be taken. And so it's a response capability, it is an alert, but it is also an education effort. That's where the foundation comes in, and I applaud your efforts of aiding in the prevention of missing and exploited children and providing a resource for families as they suffer through a missing child or try to engage in the education of children. I am also pleased to recognize Representative Bill Gossage, who has been a close friend of the Colleen Nick family, has lived through this 21 years just like so many in western Arkansas, but it was his initiative and suggestion and request that led to my authorization of $100,000 to be donated to the Morgan Nick Foundation. And as someone said, the governor can only have ideas. It's the legislature that has to sign off on some of these things. And so, Bill, thank you for your leadership on it, and all the members of the General Assembly that signed off on that proclamation request of $100,000 to the Morgan Nick Foundation. And so with that, congratulations, Colleen, and I want to turn the microphone over to you.
You know, 21 years ago, I didn't think we would be standing here today. I never imagined this. You know, I thought when law enforcement showed up at the baseball field that night that we would find Morgan, that she would come home, that they would be able to fix this. And they tried. They did everything in their power. They brought every resource in that they could get their hands on. And our Chief of Police, Russell White, has fought tirelessly and relentlessly to find Morgan and bring her home. But it didn't happen. And out of Morgan being missing, we were able to step up and to partner with the amazing law enforcement across our state and to fight back for children who become missing, to fight back for children before they become missing, to implement these CART teams across the state so that no other law enforcement agency in our state ever has to do this by themselves without having everything that they need at their fingertips to bring a child home immediately. When a child is taken with the intention of being murdered, 47% of those children lose their life within the first 60 minutes. We can't afford to lose children here in the state of Arkansas. Our children are valuable and precious. We can't afford to lose even one. By all of us working together, we have been able to stand up and say that we are going to stop this here, and we're going to stop it now. We're going to fight for any child who becomes missing, and we are going to educate children and families and communities and law enforcement across the nation to make sure that this doesn't happen anymore. The Morgan Nick Foundation partners with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to make sure that we are bringing the best resources to our state for our families and children, for our law enforcement. You know, we have an educator on staff who goes out and talks to one person, one educator who talks directly, face-to-face with more than 30,000 children across our state every year. This money from the governor will allow us to expand those efforts. You know, it's an emergency when a child goes missing. It's an emergency when a child becomes trafficked in our state. We have to be able to step up collectively to that emergency and bring the resources so that families are not standing here later. I don't know what else to say, but thank you for honoring Morgan, for honoring the work that we do. Thank you.
Now I'd like to recognize the Attorney General of Arkansas, Leslie Rutledge, who's been a leader, supporter, and initiator in this effort to protect children.
Well, thank you, and may we all have Colleen Nick's strength, grace, and courage. We cannot do enough in law enforcement to work to look for these children, to keep them safe, to educate. It takes all of us rowing in the same direction. When Bill Gossage came to me last year and asked, said, Leslie, we need $100,000 to start these CART teams through CJI. I said, absolutely, Bill. And so I'm so pleased to be part of that, to work with Dr. May at CJI, to work with our state troopers and Colonel Bryant and our sheriffs and police officers across the state to lead that effort. On July 7th, we are having our Never Forgotten event. Please make sure that families in your area who are missing a loved one attend that event. We want to put more families back together. Again, Colleen, thank you for your courage.
That concludes the presentation and announcement today. If there's any questions by the media, everybody will be available for any follow-up questions. Thank you very much for being here today. Good.
Amazing.